just another routine case. It shouldn't be like any other. I guess we're going to have this dialogue now. Guards, leave us for a minute.
You can't take my peace. You can't take my peace away from me.
That's exactly what has been taken away, your peace.
It's not of this world, not subject to your moods or your rights.
Well, I've heard that from your people over and over again. Dead is still dead.
I'm not of this world, not subject to your failures and your control.
Sedition, that's your crime. That's what you'll pay for.
You won't take my perfect peace. I'm not the one who sold her soul.
It's not about the soul. It's about you being dead in about 20 minutes.
You might take my life, only if it's my time.
It's over. Admit it.
You can't take the peace and love in my heart away.
What are you talking about?
It's not of this world, but
What
you
world?
are of this world.
You're damn right I'm of this world. That's right, honey, this world's all you're gonna get.
You are
You're out of line. There is no way that I'm gonna listen to this. You're insane. You're crazy.
are the blight.
You're a blight. You're a blight, that's why you're being eliminated.
You want to fight,
There is no God.
but it's not me who is your enemy.
If you just shut up, this wouldn't be happening
I
to
don't
you.
understand. I don't understand anything. I've been over backwards for her and for her people and people like this. I've been around them my whole life. I understand them, but the law is the law. I have to uphold the law or not. Is it a law or is it not a law? Is it the way we live or is it the way you want chaos? You want everything to be in chaos? There are rules here. I gotta follow the rule. I don't understand why you're on me. Why am I supposed to feel guilty? What did I do wrong? So what am I supposed to do about this? Let her go?
Stand as proof before all creation
She's willing to die,
that I am free
but what's inside her is
because
powerful.
of the sun.
It's more powerful than
I
our
am
laws.
free
And let's face
because
it, we
of
should
the
fight the wrong.
one.
Why are we doing this? I know there's something else, but I've lived my whole life.
I am
Denying
free, not because of you.
Just deny it. It goes away.
You are enslavement.
Maybe I am enslaved. Maybe I'm enslaved. Maybe I am a slave. I may be elite. I may be able to put people to death. I may be able to do whatever I want in society. But I want to know what she's talking about. How could she be so confident? I'm not confident. I'm afraid of death. I don't want to die. I don't want to be like her, but she seems to be having a marvelous time. Why? Aren't I like her? Maybe I am like her. Maybe this whole thing is a charade. I'm lying to
You
myself.
can't take my peace.
Look at her, she just keeps on.
You can't take my peace away from me.
I've had those thoughts, but I push them down.
You won't take
I shove
my
them aside
peace,
because I can't be here.
my
If I have thoughts like that, I can't exist here anymore.
Look, I'm sorry. I really don't want to do this. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
I just feel lost.
Well, it's amazing how things pan out the way that I said they would with the peace thing. And I'm here to correct all the thinking and all the misreporting that's gone on about the Epstein deal and what's going on behind the scenes and how people may feel. and just address it. I'll just give you my take, okay? Because I waited to confirm the really active peace negotiations. I don't know if you're aware, but Syria is being brought into the mix, which no one ever thought that would happen. And then Iran is being offered, and then I talked about Iran possibly being in the Abraham Accords. And so this Middle East peace thing is a sea change. And in fact, get tomorrow's news today, I reported on that. Long before, while everybody else was talking war and bombing Iran and everything else, it was really the peace deal that's been the motivator. If you look at the peace deal as the engine behind all of it, and trade, then you understand what the news is doing. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to just really do this kind of reporting because there is so much misreporting and just insane speculation. I mean, insane stuff that makes no sense. Trump is going to clean the deep state up on his own. So he's become the mob boss. He's going to take people out and torture them and kill them, that are on the list or whatever of Epstein. The Epstein list is another issue. But again, it comes under, it's a subheading, as everything is a subheading to the peace deal. Okay? And if you would just look at it like that, like the Lord told me, it wouldn't be pearls before swine. I mean, I just hope that you remember some of these podcasts. I really do. I mean, I'm not going to go on and on like, telling you that I'm, my track record or anything, but I mean, geez, you know what I mean? People are just saying the most stupid things right now. And it's like, well, if they knew, if they had some idea, the place where I think you should get your news is through the discernment of the Holy Spirit, and not try to be, so many people are trying to be number one. And like, I just broke the story before anybody else and all that other stuff. And so when the real motivations come in, when the real news, when people are talking about the real thing, the peace deal, which is also something I'm going to go really look at Bible prophecy about, because I mean, this could be the era of the Psalm 2 war, you know what I mean? So, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes. And then the Zechariah prophecy about all nations, lining up against Israel, then the nuclear war about skin melting off the flesh. Remember that? I mean, those of you who actually read, know how to read English or whatever language you have, will know how to read one sentence at a time. But I'm just a little frustrated because everybody's focusing on, okay, so the Epstein thing breaks. Now, I picked up the story at 4 a.m., and that was the time it was dropped at 4 a.m. I picked it up. It might have been 3 a.m. or might have even been 2 a.m. So, on Sunday. And that basically shows me that they're trying to drop it and put it behind them. But I'm treating it as a side issue. You know what I mean? I really don't care. And the other thing about Trump haters getting involved in making comments here on the Zeph report. I don't think you people even understand what my purpose is here. And so, if you want to do that, there are millions of left-wing sites you can go to, and you can bash the president all day long. But and I just read. Now I don't have time to read all if I had time to read everything and respond to it all, then I wouldn't be able to do my other work. So I guess we're kind of stuck. But I don't want to read things like Trump is a piece of shit and he just pees on what was it? Some comment about Trump peeing on everybody that and telling him it's gold when it's really piss or something. You know what I mean? You can hear that all day long on any left wing, any Democrat site. You can hear it all day long. I mean, it's getting to the point of, open violence in the streets, civil war conditions. So if you want that, it's all over the place. Why bother me with it? This is not, Trump is a pivotal figure in history and will be remembered in history, unlike a lot of the other jackasses that have been president and senator and this and that and the other thing. Okay. So you do yourself a great disservice by trying to belittle him. You don't belittle anyone. You belittle yourself. You belittle you. You look little and petty and stupid because all you're doing is just mouthing the platitudes of the Democrat Party. And if you don't like, Trump, if you can't tolerate people that are not Trump haters, then go somewhere else where they will love talking about peeing on people and stuff. They love that. They love, he's pissing on people, telling them it's gold, and they all lap it up because everyone is stupid. If that's what you think, let me ask you a question. And there's, more than one of you. I know that I'm just picking out the most graphic of comments that was sent to me by my assistant. Why? Because she was alarmed that, you guys want to poison the discussion. Wherever you go, you poison the discussion. Have you ever in your life had anything decent to say about anything? No, it's just, this is piss. You people are deluded. I'm the only one that knows anything. Blah, blah, blah. Your butt hurt. Ego is hurt. You're hurt. You were hurt somewhere. Then you need therapy. Okay. Therapy would help you. Prayer would help you. But the idea of, I guess it's so toxic out there, the hatred right now. And all you do is you just reveal yourself as a Trump derangement syndrome hater, meaning, you're somehow, you got like a mental problem, and, if your hate grows beyond Trump, you might just go ahead and pick up arms and start shooting people, I mean, how can anyone trust you with once you get to that point, what's to stop you from saying all the ICE agents ought to be shot too? And, that you just sound like, almost like Chuck Schumer at this point. And that's how you're seen. You're not seen as a visionary. You're not seen as a somebody that's out in front of the news. You're not seen as anyone that should be listened to by anyone. You're just complaining. And you're not reporting the news because the news is pretty much, if this peace thing is what I think it is, and it's been confirmed over and over since I started talking about it, and I told you I had a vision of this paint going over the earth. Well, I know that sounds, maybe that's not sophisticated enough for you. But I will just tell you this, accuracy is important. Discernment is important. We know that putting God first is the proper moniker, not putting the America first. And we've talked about all those things. So included in and parenthetically included in all that is the fact that we're not, saying, yeah, rah, rah, says Pumbaa, MAGA, Trump, we're saying God. We need to get our discernment and our news through the lens of the Holy Spirit and through prayer and through being circumspect, and also through, I don't say a lot about the Bible, but we're going to be focusing more and more on it because as we get into Bible prophecy, we're certainly into an inflection time right now. And that's what I want to talk about, things like the fourth turning, end times of prophecy of the Bible, the fourth turning, the fourth Kali Yuga of India, and the Vedas, and how they are, similar to each other, and what are the differences, and what do you think it means for man, and what is the golden age in all these different traditions. And certainly whatever we've been through, it's been a dark age. And the passing from, but anyway, this is now the podcast is becoming a digression because what we're really talking about is, poisoning the well. So look, So I'm asking you to, self-deport. If that's what you want to do, you know, please, and you can take your little band of followers who agree with you and take them with you. And I'm sure you can find a place where you can just let your hair down and run wild, you know? But it's not here because we're not in, it's almost like you think that unless you're actively saying fuck Trump and fuck the US and fuck the world and fuck air and fuck gravity and fuck the moon and fuck everything, then you're just an ignorant idiot. You need to grow up. And of course, that's absurd. Anyway, so my advice to you, with respect, I mean, in the hopes that also the hopes you get better, that you improve, would be to just move on and go hang out with the haters for a while. I think you'll get disgusted with them, and maybe that'll help. But if you do believe in Jesus Christ, if you do believe in God, you know, then you would know that any kind of TDS or any of that stuff would be completely, off book for Jesus. They would not be part of this broadcast at all. I mean, this hatred. I mean, I went through my whole period when I was younger of really, hating the world, but then I found out that I realized I was, hating everyone eventually and hating everything. And I had a right to, I was abused by the world. And so I blame the world. And, it's not until I start putting that, that forgiveness to work and letting that world go and letting those consequences go. Like I think I said in the documentary I was in, I said, they didn't hurt me. I mean, my soul, what I meant by that, and we never discussed it in the documentary, in the doc, it didn't come out in the edit. But what I meant when I said they didn't hurt me is, here I am sitting here, my soul intact. Therefore, I'm not hurt. Therefore, holding a vendetta against the world. What? We have a vendetta against Los Angeles, have a vendetta against New Mexico, have a vendetta against New York, have a vendetta against, all churches, and maybe, they should be attacked. You know what I mean? And, maybe true vigilantism means we got to bring a nuke into the situation and just end the whole thing. And I've had plenty of those kind of nihilistic thoughts, and they need to be fought back. And anyway, so that's, I don't want to have, just consider what, the way I would use this podcast is just have it as a, more of an anonymous podcast. You know what I mean? I'm not here commercially. I don't need you to buy, one of my supplements or T-shirts. Although I have a good one on now. This is Rebellion to Tyrants is, what does it say?
Obedience to God.
Obedience to God. Rebellion to Tyrants is obedience to God. And that, I definitely, believe at some point there's a reason to take a stand when it becomes intolerable. And I also believe in, the American Revolution and what it stood for, but it wasn't perfect. The people involved were in all kinds of backgrounds and masonry and this and that and the other thing, and owned slaves and had, had their own human foibles, no human problems. But see, just like Trump, now I'm going to start podcasting now. Okay. Is that okay with you? Because now you've taken a lot of time out of my day and probably taken time away from something I might say. And these are brief podcasts. Just look at this F report as just a brief, comment in time, to be taken along with, as you gather, as you do listen to your news organizations, like your, whatever it is you listen to, there's a bunch of them out there, Tucker Carlson or Alex or, I don't know. There's a bunch of others. I've kind of lost touch with them, but they all have things to say about what's going on. and want you to look at them as the leaders. I don't ask you to look at me as a leader. I don't ask you to put what I say above anyone else's. But if I'm accurate and they're not, it should, someone somewhere should just mention that, or just at least in their own psyche acknowledge, maybe they got some, maybe they were, able to gather some decent information. My feeling is gather it from as many sources as you want and just use the Zeph report as just one source. And me, it's a reflection of me and my faith. And, and I'm one guy, and I believe in, buy the truth and sell it not. No, I don't have anything to say about people that have millionaire podcasts. They have every right to do that. I don't listen that much because when people are making money off the podcast, it's a devil's bargain, in my opinion. But I can learn something. There's nothing wrong with somebody making a living off podcasting. It just wasn't me from the beginning. I wouldn't even know how to do that. I have a donation page here, but I probably won't collect. Even if you make donations, I try to figure a way to return them to you because I don't want to take, I need to turn that on. Maybe I need a different podcast platform where there isn't some donation thing. Because passing the hat, busking, if you will, we're busking, right? And you give me a big tip and I'll give you a great podcast and I'll work my ass off for you. And right there is the heart of the problem. I shouldn't be working my ass off for you. I should be working my ass off because, the Lord is driving me here to, I have a gift of communication. So he wants to use that. So I'm just saying, okay, Lord, so where do we go? And then that's what I do. And usually these go about an hour. And, but no, I'm not looking at Trump as an object of hate. And I'm not looking at, Pam Bondi as now I'm going to get into all this as, a deceptive, deep stater, or Carolyn Levitt, who's now part of the cabal of evil. I look at the government as a combination of good and evil. And we were talking about this today, me and Trish, about, it's like we're saying, well, gee, our heart's broken because, our to put it in kind of gross vernacular, our cherry has popped. The days of innocence are over. The Epstein file went away. Okay. And it's in the back, but you have to look at the context in which the historical context where we are. We're on the verge of this unbelievable peace deal. And then they go, well, Netanyahu came over again to make sure his puppet Trump is in line. None of what Trump is doing is what Netanyahu wants to do. And so you know what I mean? He's kind of, he's there to remind Trump that he can be a real jackass if he needs to be. You know what I mean? If he doesn't like it, he can be a real angry little bitch and start shooting people and stuff. And that's the world, that's the world we find ourselves in. At the same time, he recommended Trump for the Nobel Prize, which I would be amazed if they give it to him. They probably have to now because you're talking India, Pakistan, you're talking Congo, you're talking Iran now at the table about opening up Iran, Syria, with relation to, and then I don't know if you've seen this, but there are plans already on the table to rebuild Gaza. Now you can say, well, they were going to rebuild anyway. That's how they make money. Well, sure, they knock it down, they rebuild it, they line their pockets. Not the same people, but I mean, you could look at everything that way and just, if I looked at everything that way, I'd probably kill myself because I would see no reason for me to be born in the first place. You know what I mean? It'd be like, there was a mistake made and I should have been aborted. And because I know God doesn't make mistakes like that, he gives me the task of trying to dig deeper and find out, well, why the hell am I still alive then? I should have been dead in the hospital 2 years ago. So he kept me alive for some reason. So I can't just throw it away. So here I am, spending my last life, blood, life energy on this expression, in the hopes that it will help people. And what I really hope is that people find faith, is that, you realize that atheism means you believe in God. I'll say it again. It's not a trick. It's not a trick statement. The word atheist means you believe in God. The word agnostic means you believe in a divine presence. So there is no way to be separate from the creation, even in your mind, to make a partition that says I was self-created or I was created at random, because there's no such thing. Because all things are connected, and already quantum physics has already proven that. So no, design has already been proven over and over again, and the historical record of what happened with Jesus and all that's already been proven over and over again, and it would put anybody away in a court of law, even Diddy. So that's the premise we go from, and it's my hope to, there's people out there doing evangelism, kind of like going to LGBTQ meetings and parades and stuff, and putting their lives at risk, telling people about the gospel, and of course that brings great hatred. And I want to talk about the hatred in a moment. The hatred's grown worse since I did my talk on hatred. It's now they're now shooting at ICE agents, but you can also include any kind of MAGA with that. The shooting war has begun. Okay, and I'm sorry, but unless like I always say, unless and until people learn, we're going to we're in great danger of losing everything I mean in a fast way. Elevator ride to the bottom and done, one and done. And that's what they want. And the message I have for people that are like, communists you're in the wrong country. This is not a communist country. It never will be. And so it's just all it's gonna happen is there's gonna be a lot of dead people. And that's fine. I'm not such a pussy. I can't handle death and war and pain and all that. Sure. But the problem is, what are you fighting for? To overthrow the country because of the indigenous people that really deserve to have, their country back. And that's complete bullshit and lies. And that's why I, quit, listening to the Communist Party when I was in my youth, because I was angry at everybody, you know what I mean? And so that was maybe an answer for some payback, but it's payback at the expense of your soul, because it has nothing to do with payback. It has everything to do with taking your soul. It has everything to do with soul scalping. It has everything to do with demonic possession. It has everything to do with dysfunction and chaos. It has everything to do with perversion and pedophilia and human trafficking. That's what it's all about. So no, communism is not a welcome thing. And pretty soon people will begin to see the connection between pedophilia, human trafficking, child murder, adrenochrome, if we ever get to that point, the missing Epstein files, all that, and the communist or one world order that they want to impose. There is no fairness in communism. There is nothing but racism in communism. In other words, it will get to be, all blacks or all Hispanics are welcome, anybody else isn't, or something like that. There is no equanimity in communism. There is no diversity, equity, and inclusion in communism. There is no innovation in communism. Why do you think that all the cars in Cuba are these old cars? And people have all their reasons. It's because there's no innovation in Cuba. There's no motivation for any innovation, and people are just like left to be begging the government for more handouts. That's all they're going to do. So this country will never be about that. It would more likely just become a non-entity, a non-country. if it were overthrown, it would not be rebuilt as a communist state. It would be it would just be territory. And and no, the Indians won't get it. So there you go. And if you want to just keep on that attitude and keep marching in the streets, and you want to kill ICE and now kill MAGA, kill Trump. Every day they talk about killing Trump on Twitter. Every day. Anyone that does it, I'll gladly. I'm a virgin, but I'll spread my legs for you. Say the pretty girls on the internet. And this is such bullshit. And I'm to the point where, you know what? If they're gonna do that, then they're the enemy of me too. So we're all enemies. But I don't hate them. Not like they hate me. Well, being a white male, boomer that believes in Jesus, right there, I've got more than 3 strikes against me, so I'm condemned to death. I'm condemned to. If they could have their way with me, they would put me out of my misery. So we have natural antipathy because we are natural enemies, and all of you in my category, you are their enemy. The objective is to kill you. Okay, you understand that, right? I mean, it's to kill you in the most hostile way possible, just like what's happening with the Laguna Beach. Now, I want to turn to this Laguna thing. First of all, okay, before I make this whole thing one big digression. So we want to talk about the peace deal. So that peace thing is really the motivator, and then the next subcategory of that would then be I just saw my arm flap. God, I gotta tone these up, since I got out of the hospital, I was just flab. I gotta tone it up.
That's right.
And when I do, I'll just be sitting here with my 6-pack and my, no shirt on and say, see, don't have to live with a dad bod forever. But anyway, so the peace thing is the number one motivator. That's the goal. And then the trade is necessary for peace. So that, they're trying to step it up and get, instead of playing games of pride, like, South Korea saying, oh, we're not going to do, Japan, no, we're not going to let Trump manipulate us. It's just going to come down to deadline is August 1st at this point, and they either need to make a deal or they get a 20% tariff, and that's fine. You just won't see a lot of Japanese-made cars here in America. You will see American-made cars. And it's funny that Japan is also bringing factories to make, and already have lots of factories here like Honda. They've got Toyota. They got a lot of stuff here. So, it's ingenious from a business point of view. The things that Trump is doing, no one in government, no one in business, no one in Congress, no one in the Senate has anywhere near the innovative ideas that Trump had, and no one has done the things Trump has done. That's truly, like I say, for history books, you'll see Donald Trump's name there. You won't see anyone else's. And that's because the things that have been accomplished are just not even, to me, don't even seem humanly possible. They don't seem humanly possible. The idea of solving a peace equation, solving the trade equation, and we were, as Americans, being ripped off every year, and including the entitlement fraud and the NGO fraud and all that, busting all that and revamping Social Security and all that, not having a tax on it, and revamping the tax code so that people could pass on their farms and their wealth, to their businesses, to their offspring if they wanted to, or whoever. The point is all these things getting, like one of them getting done in someone's administration where they just basically do nothing. Presidents don't do anything. Like the last 5 presidents we've had have done nothing. So, maybe get us into a war, bombing Afghanistan. I guess that's, Bush. Well, depending how conspiratorial you are, I sort of hold the Bush family responsible for 9/11, deep down, and Dick Cheney is the quarterback, right? I've always seen it that way, but that's my opinion. along with a lot of other, but I mean, doing military operations against your own people, then calling it terrorism so you can have TSA invented and the Patriot Act. Give me a break. I mean, they got their shit all over it. That's the kind of thing that Trump has moved, away from. And like I say, the accomplishments speak for themselves. The country, the growth alone, the tariffs alone, with the income that comes in every day, will eclipse the deficit 10-1 before he leaves office. It would be just like ridiculous. And what that means to people that work in factories, first of all, there will be less workers than needed. So therefore, wages that are already rising will continue to rise. Benefits will rise, and people will be able to take care of their whatever their nut is and all that a lot easier than they have been the last 40 years. I guarantee it. Last 40 years, you could just call one big ripoff of the U.S. government of the people. And so, if you want to say fuck America, then fuck Australia, fuck Europe, fuck Africa, fuck the Antarctica, fuck the Hawaiian Islands, fuck the Pacific Palisades, burn it to the ground so we can have our 15-minute city, and all that stuff they do. You wouldn't be wrong. There are corrupt people in all these things, and Epstein files going away. So fuck Trump. Well, the problem with that is, I just say, well, welcome to the NFL. That's how it works. If you want pure, you're in the wrong place. If you don't want things like, the sudden cover up and the sudden change, don't have a change agent in the White House. Put somebody in there like Jimmy Carter who will do nothing and he'll just sit there twiddling his thumbs, and then you won't have to worry about it. You can call him a saint, go about your day, get ripped off by everybody and left with nothing, and have the basically what little you do have argued over by your spoiled sibling, your spoiled offspring, who could care less about you anyway. Keep it up. Great life. Really great life. Really way to lift people up too. And then if you're tired of that and you want, change, the only change I know it can be is putting God first. And if the nation would do that, then obviously that would be the nation that truly prospers. But I think America is being given a chance, but I kind of see that, that whatever is established, and it's hard for me to believe that there are people, let's call them the Democrats for now, but Democrats and Democrat, types, put all their faith in people to give them these handouts or give them these, promise them that they're going to tax the rich and give it to them and all that. It amazes me how gullible they are, and really just how short-sighted they are in thinking that the new boss is going to be any different than any other boss. The guy who's in there now, that's hated more than any man since Jesus, is exactly the guy for the fourth turning that God chose for this time. And no, he's not perfect. And yes, he has ties, I'm sure, to, all the clubs and guilds and, all the things that you call him a bad man for. And, and I'm sure that pulling the Epstein files wasn't the first time they lied, And I don't know what the purpose of it was, other than to, move it off the, could it be to protect some people, to set some people up? I'm not going to speculate on it because it's a sub issue. I don't care. I lived my whole life with them covering, up the Kennedy assassination. So fuck Epstein and fuck his client list. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Bury it all. I don't care. FBI lied. I don't care. Kash Patel is now a little baby puppet. I don't care. I don't care. It's not what's important. It's perhaps symptomatic of a deeper problem, and that's called corruption in government, or if you like, the criminality of government, preying upon its own people, stealing from its own people, making its own people die earlier, fixing the actuarial tables. I mean, I could go on and on and on. You're poisoning the food, poisoning the water. I was born into this cesspool. But then to have people going on and on about Trump or putting all their anger on Trump, which is either one of two things. It's either extreme low IQ, just like that guy that says he pisses, it says it's gold and it's really he's pissing on all the people and all that. That's a dumb statement. So clean it up, try to, think before you write a sentence or go back to English class or something. The pen is mightier than the sword. You should be able to do better than that. But see, to the critics of Trump that want to come to this podcast to then rail on Trump, Trump's not the issue. Trump's not the focus. The focus is big picture. The focus is you and me. You, me. Not all this extraneous bullshit. And that's probably the only way that I can actually get prophetic inspiration that actually turns up more often than not accurate, because I'm not focused on the terrestrial. I'm not focused on, the news. I'm not focused on the individuals, the humans. So where do I fit in? Well, God loved me so much. He made me live. But he also made me for this. I don't know exactly what I'm doing here that's going to help anybody, but he made me for this time, and I'm waiting on instructions, Lord, and I'm waiting, and I'm going to be patient because the Lord will reveal to me the secrets of the universe and of anti-gravity and, the firmament and all those questions people drive each other nuts with. The Lord will answer these in time when I need to know. So I relax. I put that in the back burner. I put Epstein on the back burner. I put Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi's not really even a player. She's just a functionary. Why do people give her so much power? Well, she is the AG. Well, welcome to the world of politics. The real ranking isn't your title. It's who you are in the ranking system, which is invisible. And we've spent a lot of time going over things like that. Anyway, bottom line is, so let's just look at this as an engine. The peace, the yearning for peace. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make it. This could just turn into a nuclear conflagration. It could all go to shit. Any of this, I just want to make a proviso here. Anything dealing with the sustenance of the world right now and of human beings not being slaughtered, that could go down the tubes in a hot minute. So please don't think that there's a guarantee on your life that you get to live on until you're 90 years old. You might be in your 20s right now, and you're going to have to face the fact that you could be. We don't know how severe they're going to let it go. I mean, what are the resources for the ambush of ICE agents? These are federal agents. And I know you don't think anything about the country and you hate everything. I understand that. But, that's still a federal agent. And these are citizens who are putting on tactical gear and body armor and, stoking up their 7.62, AK-47s and whatever else they can get. That's the war guns and ambushing ICE agents. That right there is an act of war. That's an act of war. Now, then of course they had a problem with Pete Hegseth and everything else. But I mean, Trump and Pete and all that, and they have to divide up the resources as to who's going to take care of that problem of shooting ICE agents because they've begun to shoot. Now, this is a very significant point. The news is overlooked. They're talking about it, but I mean, they've kind of overlooked it as the main point. This should be a main point of someone's discussion. Like a Tucker Carlson should be talking about they're murdering ICE agents, and they're trained military. This will be their militia, and they're already attacking, and that's significant. In LA, there was just a standoff between the mayor and the U.S. Army and the National Guard. And Karen Bass, an avowed communist who wants to overthrow the city, the country, the world, okay, and make it in her image of her being some despotic leader ruling over a bunch of slaves that she hands out little pieces of meat to when she feels like it, is literally ordering on camera, ordering the army to leave. To which I just laugh my ass off. They don't have to listen to this bitch for 1 second. Leave. You're not. It's unacceptable for you to be here. Well, look, honey, you don't have the power to do anything, and you have no power. They're there to protect, the immigration service, who is being attacked physically by Antifa and various groups of, basically anti-MAGA, anti-Trump. So anti-Trump now puts you kind of in the category of communist. And like I say, there's lots of rallies where they have Trump babies and they have Trump vomiting on himself and Trump doing this and Trump doing that. And you instead of commenting on these blogs here, you could go take place in the march and march for getting rid of Trump. You could join their militia and just start shooting people you don't like. Trish, I need another one of these, please. You got it. Anyway, that would be my advice. Is if you want to make it about Trump in the commentary, I'm not gonna really, since I don't take any money from you or anything, and you don't support me in any way. I don't think I'll let that stand. I just don't really, you know what I mean? It's boring to me. It's not really what's going on. I'd love to hear people that said, I prayed, I had a vision, and this was the vision I had. I had a vision, and it was about this paint that was covering the world, and that was really the paint that meant peace. And then I started talking about it. It was like it started as a vision. And then lo and behold, a few days later, the articles started popping up. And I was like, wow, Lord, that's amazing. How blessed that I really received something real. And, that always blows my mind when I hear something from the Holy Spirit and then I see it manifest in real life. I just want to I feel so kind of like trembling, before the Lord. Like I feel like and I say, I need more of that. I need to be in your presence, Lord. I need to be right here with you. I need to understand the power here is so much. I can barely even stand it. I don't even know if I can put up with it. It's just so overwhelming. And all day long I'm distracted and I'm far from you, Lord. And I'm distracted over all these little things when I could be hearing from you. If I would just clear the decks and really try to keep what's important in front. So the Lord, and anything he might give me, which is not a lot. I mean, it's just a little here, a little there. It doesn't go on for pages like, the Lord, am looking at you, my child, and I have a big vision for you in the Middle East or whatever. It's never like that with me. It's like I get a piece of it. And then that's why I say, look at this blog and then go look at other people's blogs, kind of put it together like a collage, and kind of get at the truth in your guts. You can feel it, and that I've got something to say about this. I mean, I kept my powder dry when the Epstein story broke, because then I realized that it's a red herring. It's a MacGuffin, and the MacGuffin is always the thing in a mystery. Like when you have a mystery story, the MacGuffin is like the guy you think did it, but he didn't, and they're trying to misdirect you to make you think that's what's going on when it isn't. And so, don't think they don't know the reaction of the conspiracy community over the Epstein thing. They know all about the damage, and then Elon Musk, is like a child. He wants vengeance against Trump, so he's now, And listen, you'll laugh at this. This was a vision. I saw Elon Musk morph into Ross Perot. You know what I mean? He morphed into Ross Perot. And what was Ross Perot's purpose? To split the Republican Party so the Republican could not get in. And who would be running on that side of things? MAGA, right? And so the purpose of Elon Musk is to ding MAGA and neuter it, and basically be the best tool the left wing ever had, and then act like he's really being a patriot. So, and that's because he's emotionally immature. And that's what we found out about him. We found out after seeing him with Doge throw his little hissy fits, we knew he wasn't fit to lead. He is not fit to lead anything. He is a baby in his emotional track. It's probably because of, like people say he's got Asperger's or something. He's got something like that. I don't know what, but that's prevented him from being able to grow emotionally. To the point of being mature enough to, to understand that. Am I the only one that said Ross Perot? I don't think so. Trish. Have you heard Ross Perot before? Yeah. You have? Okay. So I think Ross Perot is a consensus a lot of us have. And Ross Perot was the best weapon the Democrats could have ever had. And I think, well, what did Ross Perot, he was running against, was he running against Ford or Bush, or how that, anyway, my history is foggy, and I've got to go look up Ross Perot again. But it seemed like he was there to give hope to this third party for the people that felt forgotten, the working man conservatives, those people that felt left out of a Reagan presidency, or left out of a what do you have? The big sucking sound. Remember, he said there's a big sucking sound, and that's basically, there goes your tax dollars. Are you benefited? No. By the people that feel pissed off in the country, they're not left wing, they're not communists, but they're not Republicans either, because Republicans have just forgotten about them. The Republicans back then were limousine Republicans. They were pomp and circumstance Republicans. And so the little guy really got left, felt he at time was left out. And so they Perot split the vote. So he took the conservatives away from the Republicans and gave them to the Democrats, which is exactly what Musk is trying to do, because Trump took away his guarantee on his Teslas. And that's what he's mad about. And that's what the feud's about. Okay? End of story. Now we move on. That is the whole thing. Yes, it is. No one believes me. Trish doesn't believe me. That's fine. Don't believe me. You're not paying me. I'm not a paid journalist. I don't make millions of dollars like Tucker Carlson. I would caution people about those people that depend on podcasting for a living. I don't know. What are they gonna? Are they always gonna have the truth? I don't know. Are they gonna say what Right now, they want to hear about Epstein. And I believe that Elon Musk, I swear, I thought it couldn't be that petty. It couldn't be he becomes Ross because he's just being petty. He just wah, wah, wah. He took away my guarantee on selling the Teslas. I'm going to get him.
No, he knew all along Trump was going to.
He says he didn't.
Well,
He thought Trump would change his mind.
He said it before.
Yeah, but
over and over again that he didn't. That's not what he.
Well, that's what he said publicly. He said, you know, that how dare he give all these other people guarantees and not him. Anyway, he's mad. He's mad at Trump. He's mad at Trump. He's mad at Trump. That's it. Okay, let me just have my podcast. If you want to have a podcast, you can have one. It's all falling apart here, folks. So, but you know what? Here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it falls apart with me. It doesn't matter even if I'm not accurate. I can speculate and be wrong. And it's, you know, it's perfectly okay. It's okay for me to make mistakes. You know, it's amazing to have the freedom to make mistakes. So I'm liable to say lots of things that, you know, a lot of them are accurate, but some might not quite be right. And I have to think, well, why would I say that and not throw it out completely? But then more often than not, you wait a couple of weeks and it starts panning out. So, you know, I look at that as, well, then the Lord wants me to say something because obviously that's beyond my human limitation. Because I mean, if I go gambling, like playing the horses or go to Vegas, I lose. So I don't gamble, you know? Anyway, that's what I would say is good. As far as when Musk was ranting and raving like a 5-year-old, one of the things he said was Trump's on Epstein's list or whatever. And they didn't say it anymore. They were going to have a peace. And I hope they do make a peace eventually because you're dealing with a very, you know, big talent with Elon Musk. No one takes that away from him. And he's got, I've heard an interview with his father. His father seems like a great guy. So, you know, hopefully the acorn won't fall too far from the tree and things will fall back together. But anyway, meanwhile, you know, this agenda goes forward. So it involves trade. And it's really tough right now because many of these countries also joined BRICS. Now, BRICS is another key component of all this. Oil is another key component. Coming up with the alternative to the petrodollar by coming up with the BRICS dollar, the BRICS currency would be a way to displace the dollar, which would be a thorn in the side, or you know, basically would basically sink the Trump ship. So right, because and it would also sink the ship of laborers here, people that make cars, people that work, you know, for a living, would be hurt badly if BRICS succeeds. So there's a 10% punishment if you're a member of BRICS because BRICS is anti-American, BRICS is anti-dollar. Absolutely. And when it comes down to negotiations like this, you got to figure, who are you? Well, I'm an American, and you know, I would like to keep more money that I make and give less to the government because they squander it, and you know, they lie. So, is it amazing to find out that with Epstein, that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel lied? They work for the government. They lie. The government lies. Is there any way to get the government to be pure? Well, not really. As long as there are human beings running it, it will be corrupt. It'll be corrupt, and then corruption always, you know, corruption corrupts absolutely. You know, the love of money corrupts, and corruption, you know, and power corrupts absolutely. So when people have money and power, they tend to want to steal all the rest of it and you know, leave the little people to be slaves. You know, in Europe there were things called serfs. Now serfs were slaves to an owner of a, you know, to someone who could pay them, you know, but they were slaves basically. And the whole point of America was to come out of slavery. But slaves became slaves because of lies and corruption, because they were told one thing and given another, and then they didn't fight back. They accepted it, and they kept accepting and accepting and accepting lies and abuse until finally they just became the embodiment of what they accepted: slaves with no future, barely able to eat enough to survive. And this is what the world came from. This is where the world came from. The United States was supposed to be a place where people could come and work hard and, make a living for themselves and have a legacy for themselves, a business or something that goes beyond them. Maybe that family members work at, or something where they could have a farm or a hardware store or whatever it is their dream is, or a pizza place. That sounds good right now. But and to some extent it can still fulfill that. But I think that's that's the dream, that you take care of America's workers, as Trump's trying to do, the people that you bring in lots more jobs, more than is necessary. You force those wages to go up. It becomes a buyer's market now. You got to trade. You got to skill. You can trade for that for plenty of money to run your household and invest in whatever you want to invest in. That would be the goal. Ultimately, it may take 20 years to get there if we can keep the trajectory. And then the other side is basically everything that Trump does is basically wrong, including lately, the horrible Texas floods, which we've been praying for the people of Texas. Trish and I have been through there many times. Hill Country. We would stay in Junction, right on the Llano River. Okay, the Llano River, where a lot of people were. Unfortunately, people from that very same RV park that we'd stay at the RV park, and you drive in, and it goes down. It's like it starts higher, but then you drive down into it, and then you get a parking space like right on the river, and the river is just right there. Once we were there when there was a supercell burst come through, and on my phone, I got all these alerts that said, get shelter now, go to shelter now, go to shelter now, go to shelter now. And I said, we're in a fucking RV. There is no shelter. What are we supposed to do? Now, I had a powerful flashlight. I should have remembered that. And there was a bridge there. We could have gotten under the bridge maybe. But it was like we're going to get swept away in a tornado or something. And there was nowhere to go. And that was very scary. In fact, the hail was so hard that occasion that it dented. I have a Jeep, and Jeep Wrangler, and it just dented the whole the whole hood of the Jeep was dented, indented with hail. And there was nowhere to go. Trish slept through it. The dog slept through it. And then there I was, just like with my phone, just like freaking out, like where, I just thought, well, next time we're here at Junction, Texas, where would I go? And Junction is a very beautiful place. It's about 90 miles west of Austin, or west of San Antonio on the 10. And like from there, you can go upward, north. They have a Junction because all these highways connect there. You can go north up to Lubbock, or all the way up to the I-40 to Amarillo or whatever. And you can go, you can go east into Oklahoma, and you can, you've got kind of like a crossroads of every direction you want to go to right there. A lot of trucks, big truck stop, a couple of restaurants, a lot of lifers in that RV park, people on fixed income, Social Security with their, you can usually tell them they don't get enough to fix their trailers up. They're having a hard time keeping the rain out. And that's sad to see our seniors treated that way. But you know what? I think, it's either fuck it all and just nuke it and to be done with it. Or just the message of, Trump sucks. Well, then, okay, then who's your choice? Who would your choice be? Or since America sucks, what country would you like to live in? If America's no good and Trump's no good, where would you like to go? Certainly there must be somewhere you can go where everything doesn't suck, right? Somewhere you can go. We'll wait. Speak up. Where will you go? And so that shuts them up because as I'm thinking where to go, I'm thinking, could I disappear into Mexico? I got friends down there, maybe, or Costa Rica, a little hideaway in Costa Rica. And you got trendy agua gangs down there. You've got people that see, gringos come down to be expatriates and they get targeted, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but it's not that easy. Maybe El Salvador, where everything's cleaned up and you got a great leader there and they're on Bitcoin, as their central currency. Maybe else, and the gangs are all locked up in prison. Maybe that's the place you can go. A beautiful beachfront property for not millions, but like hundreds of, maybe 300,000. You get a beach house with a pool, right on the ocean. I don't know, I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. A smaller country where there's somebody more righteous and less corrupt than Trump, and you could really and not having it be the center of world affairs for one thing. The most powerful nation on earth, that carries a big burden too of corruption. And so maybe you find a little country somewhere, like maybe a Greek island, or maybe like a little island in the Caribbean somewhere, or maybe a hideaway on the Sea of Cortez. I don't know. I just it's wherever I go, I've seen corruption. In fact, went to the Caribbean down the island of St. Lucia many years ago, and we had like cocaine weed wars going on, where like guys from the police department were walking outside our place that we rented for a week, and they were on guard, marching with shotguns, and they were looking for Rastafarians who wanted to sell weed to the tourists, who would come down from the mountains with a hefty sack full of weed. You could buy one of those for this small amount of money. You'd have just a giant sack of weed. But see, they were competing with the government, and the government was selling cocaine to the tourists. Tourists come off the boat, they go to Sandals, right? Sandals. And then there's a guy on the beach that you can talk to who will get you your little bag of cocaine. And basically, when the Rastas would come around with their weed, they didn't want the people smoking weed. They want them snorting coke, because when they snort coke, they spend more money, especially on alcohol. So, now I've really gotten just off the beaten path. But I think what I look at today is I think the primary mover of this juggernaut world we're in, which is basically the yearning of peace. There's a in the hearts of all these guys, they really you're hearing it all over the place. People want peace. So that's where I would start. That's where I started. I'll just give you my history, and that's where after contemplating this for the last 2 days about Epstein and poor Carolyn Levitt having to lie on stage like other luminary women we've seen, like the last one, and then Jen Psaki and others, and they lie their asses off, and to see her saying it's totally transparent, I just disconnected from her. I mean, I had a vision of her of being this pure angel, and now I realize she's also a naughty girl. She can play naughty if she has to, because wake up, this is the NFL, this is the government. What do you think is going to happen? What's going to be pure? It's going to be everybody, no one's going to lie. Everything's going to be on the up and up. people are not going to be their names not covered up. They're not going to just lose the like the news story is. Well, the Epstein files were destroyed, and then what Pam Bondi had on her desk, she said she had all the Epstein material, but she didn't say specifically the client list. So therefore, us lawyers got together and said, just say that it was papers on your desk and you didn't know what it was. So she did. So you can X out Pam Bondi from the list of righteous, angelic Madonnas, okay? So she's gone. Carolyn Levitt's gone. And then Trump is, can be deceptive. And so now he's playing some kind of game that doesn't involve us, apparently. So complete trust in him is gone. But then again, was there ever trust in Trump like there was of the Lord? There should never have been. Trump himself should be on his knees before the Lord, period. And that's the difference. Remember, I said that, the big thing we have to do is forgive. And, so the haters, they're really hating on people that don't. I mean, if you're like me, if you're a white male Christian, just automatically that means you're anti-sodomy. So that would be, you should be killed for that. Where have I heard that story before? And you're a boomer. You're basically fodder for target practice, aren't you? Yeah. If they get their way, you all will be put on trucks, taken off to the death camps, and murdered. That's right. Well, welcome to the NFL. It's a dirty place. And it's Trump is not dirtier than people that would drive you out in the country and shoot your ass. They're not guiltier. They're all in the same cesspool, and they always have been. Whether we can get out of it or not, I don't know. I think, like I say, I see this peace thing that would somehow involve China in some way, but it certainly involve Asia. And that would even include India and, probably Vietnam, and I bet South Korea and Japan do come along within the next couple of weeks, and and increase this trade deal. Why do I think that's a good thing? Because of the amount of money people would be able to make up for some of the years that were very lean and unfair. That's one motivation. And no, do I need a clean government to get that? No, they can lie their asses off. That's not the issue. They're not doing anything today they haven't done the whole time we've been alive. It's just that people are going to focus on the Epstein thing, and they're going to turn on Trump, and they're going to join the American Party, and they're going to, start shoring up Tesla's stock. And I am digressing on purpose here. The stock took a big hit, and then all of a sudden found some support. Gee, I wonder why that was. One, on one hand, it's almost like, well, strange bedfellows, okay? If I were a Democrat and an elder statesman, say, like a guy like, who's that guy? Any of those strategists that you see on either CNN or Fox or wherever you see them, I would welcome Elon Musk's American Party with open arms. In fact, I would go to Elon and say, Elon, we got some serious buyers for the stock at this price. And if you go ahead and start the American Party, we will send them your way, and we'll make sure that you thrive. You don't need a guarantee for your Teslas that don't sell, and your Tesla will be hot again. And because they were the ones that took it down, because propaganda works. People, again, with low IQs, which is most of the country has low IQ. It's not because they were born with it. It's because the environment is toxic and brings down IQs. From fluoride in the water to mindless programming from television to just all the different influences that people have makes them dumber and dumber. So then when they get on the air and they start talking about voting this way, doing that, getting in the street, the No Kings March, and they line up, they got their signs and they think they're gonna get fairness. And Rosie O'Donnell calling for revolution, who I guarantee you is a wuss. You know what I mean? I think at the first sign of any kind of fight, she tells everyone else to go die for her. What a bitch. What a fucking bitch. What an ugly fucking bitch who doesn't even have the courage to stand on her own principles. If she did, she would take an airplane back to the States and organize the revolt. Does she? Of course not. Celebrities are there to be worshipped. They're not there to go out and fight and die. You pay respect, you bow down. They are the golden calf of today. They're a big problem. And they're all left wing. They're all communist. Of course. Because if they, that's the way that's what the world is. It's a big communist, right? It wants access to your soul, and it can't get access unless it has that system in place. Scalping the soul is a matter of scaring someone to death and then saying, would you like to make a deal? Everybody's waiting for you. Everyone down at the club is waiting to cheer you on your new birthday as being a brand new minted satanic agent. Come on down and get your share, the Beatles would tell you. And the people that followed were too stupid to understand that they were just being herded like cattle. Well, it feels good. Yeah, because they were offered sex and drugs and free houses and free cars and easier life and nod, wink, wink. It's pretty cool. As long as they don't say anything, they're still in the limelight. They're still in the good graces. They take the world in a love embrace, and then they fire all their guns at once and explode into space. Gee, I wonder what that song's about. Maybe I should go back to school, study it. Okay. Well, I've gone over. Usually I go about an hour. I'm probably going to be cutting these down to try to. I think I could have done this in 20 minutes, but I had to get that off my chest. That idea of Trump haters coming into the chat. You guys have plenty of other places to go. You can go to like Breitbart or the Gateway Pundit or Infowars or X and some of those groups on there, libertarian groups and of course Democrat groups. And you can go to celebrity like John Cusack and all the rest of them, the Charlize Therons, all the women who are transitioning their kids to, mutilating their genitals and to stay in the, to stay in the limelight. And it's really quite. I saw Charlize Theron on TV. She was saying something like some idiotic thing, which of course is pretty much any time she talks, it's really pretty idiotic. And she has followers. But she was saying how, she felt indifferent about sex, but then she had explained about having sex with a 26-year-old and what a thrill that was. And I said, yep, true to form, of course, and going all over what that felt like and how it was and being the racy bitch. But the bottom line is, it's like, is that the whole show? I give her that. She's good at play acting other people, but herself, she should never play herself. That's a and it's amazing to me how people, because of celebrity, they will let someone be a fool and play themselves a fool, and they will then worship them, even if they're a fool. But then somebody that's not famous will be a fool, and they'll put him down and laugh at him. What a fool! What an idiot! So when I look at that, I'm like, Lord, is there really any hope for humanity? I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at how these people act. One of my favorite things was to go into a Starbucks and start talking about the book of Revelation. And, it's like a totally crowded line out the door. And then by the time we got done, the whole place was cleared in Santa Fe, boom, cleared. So we had the table all to ourselves. And this happened more than once. And I just thought to myself, bah, bah, and then, every once in a while, one would ask me, don't you feel bad? Don't you feel like left out of what's going on? And I say, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, God bless. And, one day maybe that'll happen to you. Oh, no, I need to keep my finger on the pulse. Oh, yes. You need to keep your finger on keep on and grooving. Keep on moving to the sounds of your own hypnotic bullshit. And I'll just stay, out the fool, having my Starbucks, talking Book of Revelation, enjoying the show of humanity and all the brilliant moves they make. And so, why should we be upset? And here's my point. So, why should we then be upset about Epstein? If given what I just said about humanity is true, why should we even care? Really, I mean, it shouldn't even be a blip on the radar. But you watch, they're all going crazy. And I know the Q people probably have something to say about how brilliant Trump is at engineering this big game or whatever. And to me, it's just like nothing is worth watching, people that you thought were pure sully themselves on national TV. Nothing is worth that. But then again, everybody's got to grow up. Carolyn Levitt is an adult. She's not an angel. And either is Kash Patel or Dan Bongino. They're lying. They're all lying now. So what? Lie all you want. Somehow the Lord wants me to look at other things. And, I sense that a lot of people are going to wake up now. And, because their health is improved. What? Health is improving. It's another theme that's going to be going on the next few months. Health begins to improve. And when health improves, you think more clearly. And, you're not such a low IQ individual at that point. Since they take the fluoride out of the water and they stop with the chemtrails, a lot of that was just to dumb people down. I think people are getting on to it now. I mean, there's still in your town going to be there are people today who got one article on a COVID variant and they all masked up. They're already masked. And you just think to yourself, that's the sorriest sight I've ever seen. Now, it's quite okay to mock them. I mean, just walk up to one of them and go, hey, how's that mask, sir? Ma'am, how's your mask? Fits good? You like it? Cool. I think it would look better with sequins. And with that, oh yeah, they'll all be doing that very soon. As we get into the school year and the big fight between the CDC and Peter McCullough, and the fact that people won't be able to find antibiotics so easily, which they'll need to fight the bird flu. And then they'll have a direct challenge on Trump. Trump is not out of the woods, and he could lose spectacularly. Even after changing history, they could change it all back, and people would cheer it on. Oh, they would love being poorer. Oh, they would love food lines and soup lines, and they love one of their favorite all-time things. I know this for a fact because I know a lot of lefties and known a lot in Hollywood. And they just love the idea of a food bank with lots of food. You can go get cans of food. And then they want to sing songs about one day the oppressor's foot will be off their neck. And they'll be free one day. They'll be free. And thank God for these soup lines. If Trump was in office, we'd all be starving to death. And with that, I bid you shalom.
You're corrupt.